Hello everybody. So we are it's going to be maybe a little bit of a long video today, so I apologize if it's too long, but I thought I would start off by replying to some of the comments that I had, which were just really nice. So thank you guys for thank you everybody for commenting here. So first I'd like to say thank you for posting that. It's absolutely amazing. This is from a little challenge we set into my little membership program, and Arisa here has done a little animation, which is very cool. Yeah, really good quality. So thank you for showing us that. And so here, Sean here talks about smooth in YouTube compression makes smooths out the noise. That's very possible, and so the noise is more obvious on your PC. So it also depends on your video card, of course, and yeah, RTX is a thing of the future. So today I'll go through a few more questions here. I have a question. My complete RTX scene works with 2520 frames per second, less than that. And the strange thing is that my GPU is only working at 3035. That says in Task Manager. So I'm not quite sure what that would be. I'm afraid I really don't know. If you're working at 2025 frame FPS, that means your CPU, your GPU should be working very, very hard, because otherwise you would be at 120. So, I'm not sure. So thank you, Danielle. Always there. Danielle has started when I started, and now you've created your nice little path in with a VFX career, and it's really cool. I checked your YouTube channel though, and I see no videos. I want to see your stuff, Danielle. So breakdown video. I'm thinking about this. I've never thought about that before. Thank you for say thank you. So here the Skylight. We're gonna basically I did it without the Skylight in the first one, but we'll talk about it now. And so thank you, Dmitry here. The fact that brute force and final gather need different settings. So yeah, I think they work differently, and they are both for different good for different things. And any more for the Quadro 5000? I think I replied, but I didn't see much a difference with Quadros. And to build a computer. So we'll talk about that some other time. Thank you, Roman. I will keep going. I promise. I'll do what I can. And okay, so let's carry on in this scene. So here I wanted to give a shout out to Juan, my colleague and friend at Epic, who very kindly said, you talked about the hybrid method, and are you going to do that video? So I'm going to talk about this hybrid method today. So here we are still in ray tracing here, because I've got this path tracing mode available. So that's kind of how I check whether I'm in ray tracing or not. So when I started this scene, in fact, I did it without ray tracing and built the Lightmass. So even though I'm on ray tracing now, it doesn't really matter. We can still build the Lightmass and so on. So I'm not going to go through the whole of the Lightmass. I'm sure everybody kind of knows more or less what it is. I'll go over the steps if you want. So obviously when we build the Lightmass, we are going to have to unwrap our objects, and we have to create a light map texture. Is that what it is? Well, anyway, we have to have deal with the light map resolution. All right, so that's what we're looking at here with the density, and just to have a little check on here. So this is the kind of normal workflow or non-ray tracing workflow, and so I'm going to illustrate that now. I'll turn off everything, and we'll kind of be able to see it, as it were, right there. So here I'm kind of turned off the skylight. Skylight is not doing anything. I've turned off the sun, the directional light, so it's not doing anything either. I'm going to also hide all these lights, which are going to be all turned off, right? So here what we're looking at is basically the light mass, all right? We're looking at the light mass, the light that has been pre-rendered when we build this build button, and is now kind of hard-coded onto the geometry. So you can see that this geometry is actually set in static here, and that when I move it, I'm going to lose my light mass. All right, this is kind of now it's kind of cancelled out the light mass that was baked onto the scene, and I will need to re-render it again. All right, so here that was done using the environment color as white. So I won't go through it now because it's a little bit tedious. This takes a little bit of time, but this is kind of the settings that I use. So this workflow is kind of quite well known, and normally you would have the direct sunlight here that would be set on stationary or on static. Okay, and that means, so let's say stationary usually, and that means that we have the inconvenience of having this preview button, and then all sorts of problems or not problems, but I guess issues which bring about the idea that we want to work with ray tracing. So that's good. So that's the light mass. All right. So the reason why we want to bake this light mass is that we want to have the bounce lighting. So I'm going to actually bring up, if I may, the matrix, which I looked up yesterday on on Wikipedia, that it came out in 1999, which is just crazy. So here we go, matrix, and this was actually the Matrix underground scene. Is that what it is? Okay, cool. So that I was told by a friend who kind of described to me that he was working on the Matrix and was in charge of kind of doing the HDRI globes capturing the light for this. So anyway, that's kind of irrelevant. What he did say to me is that at the time they didn't work with GI for obvious reason. It was 1999. I don't wonder if we even had GI, but I was using V-Ray at the time, and in ArcViz, the classic thing is we just turn GI on straight away, and there is absolutely no way that we would work without GI. It's kind of the default, very, 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 very first thing you do opening a scene, V-Ray, just turn on GI and they're on. So I was kind of like, what? And basically, if you've watched the Matrix, you've been fooled, all right? You've been fooled by this, thinking that it was real. And basically, the reason why I'm kind of bringing this up is for another subject that I want to talk about at some other point, which is kind of, well, this was the beginning really of having absolutely real looking CGI as far as I can tell. And it was also the beginning of ray tracing on the CPU. So it was a very significant moment. Anyway, so here what we are seeing is that basically the GI as I understood, as I've be told was non-existent, but there was, and so what he said is that when we need GI, we just fake it, you know, which makes sense from an artistic point of view. So here we don't quite fake it, but we take an approach of using it as basically a compositing element. All right. So here, what I'm particularly concerned about is the bounce light onto the ceiling. So the reason why we care about this is that this effect is very costly in real time, right? This is what's giving us, as we saw in last video, this is what is giving us this noise that we want to try and get rid of. Okay, so, and that's why we bake it. Well, that's not why we bake it, because before we didn't have the choice to have it in real time. Okay, so so that's that for the GI, for the Lightmass. So the reason why I'm going on to such length to explain that is that we have access to this GI here in the global illumination tab of the post-process volume. All right, indirect illumination, indirect lighting intensity. In fact, I've boosted it up here, 1.57, but I can turn it off. All right, so here it's off. So my Lightmass, I can, like in compositing, like no doubt they did in the Matrix, and for thousands of movies after that, we work in layers, and we have all these layers that are then, you know, put into a compositing program. Whereas here we can work with it in real time inside of Unreal. So that's what we've got here. So the only thing about Unreal is kind of it's hidden a little bit other places and stuff. So so here, this is where we can access the GI pass, all right, the bounce light. The other thing to notice, which is obvious, but worth mentioning, is that all this stuff is not moving. Okay, so that's kind of a big caveat. It's a big constraint. It's not moving. It's static, and obviously, so that's why we are always dealing with that in ArcViz, because buildings tend to not move very much. Okay, so that's the Lightmass that we're going to use. So I'm actually going to turn that off now, so we can look at other things. So we've got the bounce light. I've kind of started a little bit back to front, because normally, like in drawing, for example, it's the last thing you'll draw. So again, subject for another video. And here I'm going to talk about the direct light. So the direct light, pretty obvious in movables, but while I'm here, I might as well say why we even bothering with ray tracing here, because you know, if we're going to bake the GI, well, this is why, right? Because the shadows here in ray tracing, especially with this direct sunlight, are not only extremely efficient, very, very fast, but also very beautiful, you know, very sharp here, and kind of going on to this. That's why I've put these guys kind of in the distance here, so that we can have some different effects of the shadow. So see here, for example, we got this kind of this soft shadow here of the elephant that's far away, and contrasting with the sharpness of the arch here. So it's kind of this interplay of soft shadows and hard shadows, and it makes, again, like well, when you draw, okay, this I'll show you exactly. That was showing up before, and it's not anymore, so I can't show you now. I have one of my drawings here. Why is it not showing up? Here we go. Surely it was just a second ago. What did I do? Okay, I might have to all right, well, I'll get back to you. Well, actually, here's the drawing. I've got it right here, so I'll show you. Say we have a interplay of hard shadows, shadow edges, soft shadow edges, and harder shadow edges. Here, harder shadows and softer shadows, right? Hard edges, soft edges. So it's kind of an old fine art thing. And we kind of have the same effect, which I think is quite beautiful. So great. So that's why we want ray tracing. That's why I want ray tracing. Okay, also performance-wise, I have heard, I don't know if it's still true, if it is, but in kind of a large urban situation with lots of buildings seen in all in white, you know, like we see master plans and things like that, it would be with this one single light would be more efficient in ray tracing than in non-ray tracing. It would be faster in ray tracing, I have heard. So that's another reason why we would want to use ray tracing. And it's very cool. So anyway, and also you can use your new GPU that you spent lots of money on. Okay, so we've got the bounced light baked into Lightmass. We've got the direct light in ray tracing. All right, so now I'm going to turn that off because we have also, so that should be on 0. That is now okay. So that is what I want to talk about next. All right, so I'm going to turn my sun back on, all right, because as you can see now, I'm going to turn my skylight off and then back on, and you saw just a little bit of shadow here, a little bit of blue light. All right, so I'll turn it off and then back on. All right, so that's something that is going to fill my shadows, which are completely black here. So I'm not so much worried about the bounce light on the ceiling here. I'm looking at my shadows. I'm also looking at something that we've got here. If I can find it. Gosh, that was an amazing movie. So here, this shadow here, all right? It's funny, kind of, we've got a very similar situation here. So that these shadows are kind of really indicative, you know, give me a lot of information. Well, the fact that pillar is kind of sitting pretty heavy on the floor, and the direction of the light, and then it's also this kind of soft shadow. So here we kind of get a little bit, some of it from the Lightmass, which I'm not going to go back into, but here we have the opportunity to work on that a little bit more and to get a little bit more of that. So I'm going to show you that in a sec. For that, I need to turn the sun off, the direct light off, but what happens is that when I turn the sunlight off, my sky goes away as well. So I'm kind of left with that skylight, but if I change it, let's see if I change it, it disappears. Okay, so I need to do something a little bit clever, a little trick here. I'm going to select my direct light, and I have a light function material, which I did have just a minute ago, but it crashed, so I'll put it back. Hang on. Where is it? Here, sun shadows. For some reason I called it that. And all that is a light function with a parameter in here. So I'm going to turn that off here. Default value 0. No sun light. But the sky's still on. Alright, so that means that my skylight is now the only actor that is lighting the scene. Also should be. Okay, so let me just check something here quickly. Raytrace GI. So here we go. So we want to turn that off. Alright, so basically here well, what we want is a solution where we're going to have minimal noise, all right? And the noise is due to that GI. So I'm going to turn that off for now, and we'll have nothing. So here we're just seeing the reflections. So let's now turn on only the skylight. I hope I haven't lost you. I'm going to turn this intensity way up, okay? 16 here. So this maybe could be the subject of yet another video here, but what we're looking at now is basically the skylight throwing out from the sky. So this is kind of called IBL, image-based lighting. So the skylight is sampling the environment and throwing in the scene a pretty accurate and a pretty beautiful light, actually, from the environment. You know, there's this sort of nice tint here between the warm and the cool and stuff like that. So what it's not doing, because I've turned off the GI, is bouncing up the ceiling. All right. What it is doing is this sort of nice shadow that we looked at here, which is kind of a little bit lacking in resolution, but I wonder if, yeah, so it does affect it a little bit here, but not massively. If I change the resolution of the skylight, I'm not gonna 496. Is that gonna make? Right. So anyway, we've got other ways of dealing with this, which I will deal with in another video if I don't crash. Okay, I didn't crash, but that was not a good idea. Do not do that. I'm not going to do that again. So, yeah, so that doesn't make much difference. However, okay, slowly recovering. But I didn't crash, so that's great. So, however, what does make some difference, so now if I move my sun, and I'm going to just update the skylight this way. Here, so yeah, it shouldn't be too, yeah, should be quite smooth at this stage, because I don't have, so I've got very minimal noise here, and I've got, let's see, the frame rate, something's not quite behaving as it should. Okay, so there you go. So it's not bad here, all right? So, and I've only got one texture, so I think it did not like having this heavy. Okay, I think it's all more or less come back to life. Great. Okay, so I'll ignore this texture streaming pool. I've only got one texture, so everything should be fine. But so we've got, recap, we've got the sun, direct light, which is currently turned off, but giving me a nice sky color. All right, so I'm able to now, if I move the sun, my sky should update. So here I'll just go skylight update every frame, and my skylight should now give me, yes, actually, I guess that was not a good move to put the skylight on 490 on 4K and update it every frame. Not a good move. But you can see that here now I've got the skylight basically that is throwing some light in the scene according to me moving the sun and using basically this really beautiful kind of image-based lighting algorithm, basically. Okay. So that's mainly, I'm looking at these shadows here, right? So if my frame rate allows, if I take the skylight, so I'm actually going to stop the skylight update every frame now. All right, my frame rate will be much happier. Everybody much happier, and I'm gonna add maybe a few samples. See what that does here. So ray tracing samples here for the skylight. I'll maybe go gentle 8. Yeah, so it's not kind of giving me much more precision, but that doesn't really matter because in this situation. If I turn the sunlight back on now. Okay. Oop. Sunlight, directional light, sun shadows, and I've got the parameter here. Put that back on 1. Shadows 1. Yep. And so now we've kind of got this shadow given by the sun, okay, which is going to give us a little bit more precision. So this is the trick. So to have now kind of this hybrid method, we can now go into the post-process volume and use this indirect lighting intensity, which we have baked. So that's now giving us this this baked look. All right. So, and I'm not quite sure what's going on there. My texture streaming, which is a bit of a shame. Come on, stream. All right. I'll go the old pool size. Pool size. Streaming pool size. For go on. All right. Okay, and my frame rate's happy now, so that's great. Okay, cool. So that's basically, now we have these 3 different dials. All right. So if I just go maybe in camera, stop moving around. Oh no, that was not a good idea. That's another issue. Camera's got its own exposure. So now I have the sunlight that I can actually tweak. So now I'm not actually going to tweak the intensity of the sun. I'm going to tweak the intensity of this light function here. So I can tweak this value here, which is giving me the intensity of the sun. 0.5, 0.5, 0.2, okay. So we can be really subtle with that. And also I have the skylight, all right, which is kind of throwing this shadow here, and mainly the light that's gonna, this kind of this blue this blue tint here from coming from the sky. All right, it doesn't like me doing that. So like I said, it's like doing compositing, but you have, you have your layers or your dials in here. We've got them here. So the intensity of the skylight here, I can use and tweak as much as I want, like that. 16. And I can access this bounce light here on the ceiling, kind of, I guess that's kind of what I'm looking at. That's what I'm using it for. Post-process volume down at the indirect, what am I saying? Indirect lighting intensity here. 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. Right, and obviously I can also tint that, which is really useful as a kind of a post-production tool. I've kind of overdone it now. Anyway. It's not happy. Okay. Well, if everything's still recording, I guess that is possibly a good place to finish, although it's a little bit of a shame because I was going to show again this matrix, but it's not responding. Okay, everything's gone back to life. And so I'm going to just show this. Obviously, this was really back in the days. And I'm kind of looking at his shirt here. And look, it's just gone completely green. And it's obviously a white shirt. So I'm just wondering, I guess there isn't, a kind of completely green light, but what they probably were, what they were is they were completely surrounded by the green, which I guess is kind of things of the past now with the LED wall, with Mandalorian and all that. Well, the not Mandalorian anymore. Everybody's gonna have a green wall. Anyway, I was just saying, I wonder whether that's affected the look of the film, which is so. It's such a signature, that kind of green background. So, just saying here, well, we can tint our skylight if we want a little bit of green to go into this mode or not. So we're kind of completely free to do it in real time, more or less. I mean, what can we expect? And then to tweak, so again, there's another subject, but how here with in real life, we're kind of, it would be a lot more difficult to make these changes. So we're a little bit more careful maybe in real life. So here we go. So now I've got this pretty interactive situation here, maybe just not again with the skylight updating, but for that I guess I should probably use the sun and sky, or the new tool that Short has shown in some videos, but I haven't had the chance. I think it's going to come in 4.26. So more to come on that, but hopefully that responds to some questions, and hopefully that makes sense. All in all, it's really quite simple once you kind of know where things are and whether you can access all the different things. So here, maybe the small issue with this that I may still have. So obviously the end is that we have this skylight, this what's it called? Bounce light here, and reduce greatly the amount of noise. So here we still have maybe a little bit of noise here in this instance, but I guess that's kind of something that I would probably deal with by adding some light. So that's going to be another yet again subject, because there was a very kind suggestion in the previous video. So here I would kind of just throw some more light on there to get rid of some of these. So but that's going to be another video, which will be about the bounced card method, which is going to be actually the possibly the method of choice for something like this. So much more to talk about on the subject. But here we have this interactive light here again, and I will update my skylight. So here we have very interactive lighting situation all the way down to. So here I'm left with just the Lightmass. Okay, so quite some constraints, but we have no noise up here basically due to the GI. So maybe what I could do here is increase the skylight samples to get rid of these over there. There you go. Yes, so that did the job great. So great. Well, I'm glad I found this at the end to give you here the image-based lighting basically. So if I don't know how far we can take this, is going to give us this shadow fill. Yeah, basically. So now, if I kind of want to be on this in this view, then theoretically, especially when I render, I should have no problem with noise. And again, if I do, as we looked at before, I can increase the number of samples here in the sun, in the direct light again. So here I'll put full. And that should give me the shadow, the samples on the shadows. It's all a matter of kind of where to look. So here I'm looking at the edges of the shadows when they move like that. Okay, not necessarily that you'd want to always have that. It's easy to overdo, but it's a tool, for, I guess, storytelling, time passing, and things like that. Or in the case of Blade Runner, it was sort of full control. Anyway, I rattled on for far too long. Thank you very much for watching. This was a little bit of a test, kind of a new format. I like this dialogue, and so thank you very much for posting comments, and we'll see you next time.